James Sunderland.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise to support this excellent bill, both as the chair of the Veterans All-Party Group, but also a veteran myself. And I take my hat off to all of our 2 million plus veterans in the UK for what they give to our society, and it's entirely right that we support them as best we can. I also want to commend my honourable friend from Aberconway for bringing this bill forward. It is an excellent bill, and I'm very happy to support it today. Back in the day, as a new and younger MP, when I chaired the Armed Forces Bill Select Committee, Mr Deputy Speaker, you may recall that Lord Lancaster did table an amendment to that particular bill, which the committee made the decision not to support. And the reason for that was simple. It was because the MOD asked that committee to pause in order for the MOD to look holistically at the proposal. And in complete deference and to the full credit of the MOD has looked at it, and it's testament today that we're discussing this very bill on the back of that recommendation, the work the MOD did. I don't want to cover in too much detail the bill itself, but what I do want to say is that we know there are 12 Veterans Advisory and Pension Committees across the UK, 9 in England, 1 in Scotland and 1 each in Northern Ireland and Wales. The statutory function is to engage at a local level with war pensioners, Armed Forces Compensation Scheme recipients, and also to make representations and recommendations to government. The policy changes in this bill, they will provide for the VAPCs to be given additional functions in law, and that's really important in law. And why is that important? Well, if you look at the bill that covers this particular work, as underpinned currently by the Social Security Act of 1989, if you look at the language, it's quite interesting. Engage, support, represent, recommend, assist. It's all pretty flowery stuff. And my view of the VAPCs currently is that they are great organisations, good people, they're very well led, they've got considerable horsepower, but they've got no statutory teeth at all. And what this bill is all about is in giving the VAPCs the statutory teeth that they need to be able to provide defined influence, on which more in a minute. And at the moment, we've got a whole raft of people in society who do great work for our veterans. We've got the Armed Forces Champions, the VAPCs, we've got fantastic charities, the third sector, the list goes on. But I feel very strongly as though the VAPCs are the right statutory vehicle for taking that forward, and I'll explain why and how in due course. Back in November 2021, the MOD, working closely with the Office of Veterans Affairs, provided the VAPCs with new non-statutory supplementary TORs, terms of reference. That's been looked at over the last 12 months, and the decision has been taken now to widen those statutory functions to enable the matters in the TORs to be set out in secondary legislation. So this is about giving the VAPCs teeth. And why are we doing this? Well, it's to better serve the needs of the veterans and to better reflect modern day concerns of the veterans community. And again, that's really important. Is it a good thing we're doing this? Absolutely yes. So very briefly in terms of the bill itself, Clause 1 creates a new enabling power for the Secretary of State to make regulations establishing VAPCs for specified areas. Yes. Clause 2 repeals Section 25 of the Social Security Act 1989 in order to make those consequential amendments in law. Yes. And Clause 3 is about the time period in which this would be enacted, and in my view it needs to be as soon as possible, and I would urge the Minister in his place to push this through as quickly as possible. But here's the issue. Why are we doing this? Why is there a requirement for this to be given more powers in law? Well, there's a simple reason. I'll explain why. Over the past 3 months, the All-Party Parliamentary Group of Veterans has been running an unprecedented nationwide survey into the experiences of our veterans when claiming compensation, war pensions or financial support for Veterans UK. There is no question at all that the majority of our 2 million veterans in the UK do live happily, successfully and live fulfilling lives. But anecdotally, the APPG has been presented over many months with evidence that the experiences of individuals when dealing with Veterans UK are not always positive. The claims process right now is deemed to be too confrontational, too bureaucratic, too antiquated and takes too long. And it may be that greater scrutiny is needed for this most important task. In terms of trends, we know that Veterans UK has been underrested for years, that some staff may still be working from home, that decisions take too long, that calls take too long to answer, and that the migration from paper records to digitalisation has been too protracted. We also know that some veterans remain on a knife edge with the prolonged and pending nature of life and death outcomes. How is Veterans UK governed? Well, at a superficial level, the levers needed for making the changes that we think are needed already exist in the MOD, for the simple reason being that Veterans UK does sit under the MOD. It forms part of Defence Business Services, and therefore the authority for these core outputs does and should and must come from good command and control within the MOD. But again, why? Well, let's take the example very briefly of Corporal Retired John Smith. We've all got Corporal Retired John Smith in our constituencies. Having experienced an issue of Veterans UK and exhausted his own personal options of redress, he might write to his MP. The MP then writes in due course to the Minister, and he's sat in his place, but the Minister then writes directly to Veterans UK for the answer. Given that there is currently no independent body representing grievances or challenges, Veterans UK today, right now, is both judge and jury and effectively marks its own homework. That is not acceptable. So, in terms of the survey, I've yet to meet with the Minister, we're doing so next week, but just a fleeting insight briefly into what the survey has told us in this place. Cross-party survey, each of the 4 co-chairs of that survey are from a different party. The survey received over 1,000 responses overall. Headline statistics are that 76% of veterans and personnel surveyed would rate their overall experience claiming compensation through Veterans UK as poor or very poor, compared to just 6% as good or very good. And likewise, 77% of veterans and personnel rate the level of communication they received whilst awaiting the results of the application as poor or very poor, compared to 6.5% as good or very, very good. And to quote one headline, quote, Veterans UK made it so difficult for all veterans and you feel like a criminal. There is no compassion whatsoever. Well, that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is not acceptable, and we have work to do. So what? Well, the purpose of the survey is not, of course, to situate the estimate, but to generate the evidence needed for further scrutiny. We've now done that with our survey. So, question for the Minister. Does Veterans UK require a formal structural review or a dedicated delivery board? How do we know if Veterans UK is governed appropriately or whether our veterans are given the best deal? These questions need to be answered. But harking back to the VAPCs bill right now, in my view, Mr. Deputy Speaker, a ready solution may now exist for providing the necessary oversight to Veterans UK, if this is deemed to be necessary. While service charities such as SAFA, COPSIO, RBL and Help for Heroes, along with the new Veterans Commissioners, do all play their part in supporting our veterans, the more formalised body of the Veterans Advisory and Pension Committees, or VAPCs, could offer that statutory solution. And again, I commend my honourable friend from Aberconway for bringing forward the VAPCs bill today, which will release members, the VAPCs themselves, from some of their legal constraints and enable them to be more adaptive and innovative in working with veterans. So, as a significantly untapped resource, the VAPCs on the back of this bill might now be able to reshape their excellent relationship with the Office of Veterans Affairs to add specific value. They could be given the formal task of holding Veterans UK to account by providing an ombudsman or assurance type entity. Equally, they could be given formal oversight of decisions that become subject to challenge or independent adjudication. Please do.
Just on that point, I think it's so important that this bill goes through, and I applaud the member for Aberconwy for his work on this. Would he agree with me that everyone who works to support veterans, I've done a lot of work with local organisations in my own constituency in Watford, really do deserve a lot of credit, and that given the fact that so much of that is done voluntarily, the important thing here is that where there's a statutory body opportunity through this, that's fantastic, but please do applaud everyone who's been so supportive of veterans now and in the past and for the future as well.
I thank the member from Watford for his intervention, and he's absolutely right. We've got so many people in our fantastic community across the UK doing great work in support for veterans, and he's absolutely right. But of course we can do it better, and in my view, giving the VAPCs now a statutory responsibility and role could be just what we need. I'm going to wrap up very quickly, but I think that freed from statutory control now and limitations, this bill is timely and offers a potentially fantastic framework for enhancing the roles and the outputs of the VAPCs for the benefit of all of our veterans. Thank you.
Yeah.